In this podcast, I interview Sonny Alves Dias, the CTO of Pixelmatic. Sonny is based and has been living in China for the last 8 years. We talked about his move from France to China, how he first got a job in gaming in China, and what the game development ecosystem looks like in China, both from a regulatory standpoint on what you can build and what you can't build and how you have to get it approved and how you distribute it to the world with the great firewall implications. We talked about his strategy using blockchain technology in games and how the future of games will look with respect to blockchain technology, not built on top of blockchain, but utilizing tools in blockchain. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Here is Sonny Alves Dias. All right, Sonny, excited to chat with you. Why don't we take off where we left it on our pre-show conversation. You recently moved to China. You're now running CTO of Pixelmatic, a gaming company. You previously lived in France. This is kind of as far as we got before, but I'd love for you to fill me in a little bit more on your background, what it's been like moving to China, joining this gaming company, and maybe comparing the industry in China to outside. I'm curious to hear from your perspective, having lived in China now for a few years, what your take is.
Sure. So actually, I've been in China. It's been 8 years, I think, almost 8 years.
Okay.
It's so like you said, I come from France. I graduated in France, and then I started working in France. But yeah, I did meet a girl, and she happened to be Chinese, and yeah, we decided to move to China at some point. Arriving in China was very difficult at first. The culturally is very different from the West. It's very, very difficult to the first days. Like the social etiquette is very, very different from the West. Like you don't have to say hello. You don't say goodbye. You don't have to ask people how are you. You don't chit chat and such. So it was difficult at first, but you get used to it. And also when I came to China, actually I came with no jobs. So I kind of had a ticker on my head, a countdown, because I had a short-term visa and I had to find a job before the end of this visa. And by chance, yeah, I found something, and fortunately it was in the gaming industry. So when I was in France, I didn't have a chance to join the gaming industry, which was kind of my goal for a long time. But I was kind of working in related areas. I did a lot of stuff regarding like augmented reality with construction trade companies, and also some simulation games for like a gas power plant. So we were like training engineers in a 3D environment of the power plant and such. It was cool. So close to game. And then when I came to China, I just, okay, let's do it. Let's just try to find something in the gaming industry in Shanghai. And I did find something. I had a chance to work with American McGee, who is like one of the well-known people in game in China. And he was like working on Quake, Doom, and all of this is very early FPS game. So he was a level designer on this game. So he was kind of a well-known name in that field. And the experience was great. And something happened, which is the project I was working on got canceled. And I basically got laid off after 3 months. So I was somehow back squared one. Yeah, I think I was very excited at that time to be finally in the gaming industry. So I was very pumped up, and I just did so many interviews in a week. And after a week, I got a couple of offers.
What's the process? Is the process there go online? Is there some website you're going to? How did you manage not speaking Chinese? Did you have to, take a path looking for Westerners in China? Like, how was that more tactically?
the very first I found like the name of the company was Spicy Horse from American Maggie. I find it online. Yeah. So my first experience with finding jobs through through websites basically, and I could cite a couple. If I don't know if you want to advertise anything. And I found them, but then once I was into the gaming industry, there's this sort of a networking. So, and especially in Shanghai, it's kind of a small community, but everything knows each other. So it was way, way, way easier to find something actually once I was in the gaming industry. And I also had somehow the reference from American Maggie. So he introduced me to a lot of people. So I got some offers thanks to him from his network, and also from other people from Spicy Horse at the company, and also some stuff I found myself online. So yeah, it was not actually finding the first job in the gaming industry was very difficult. It took me like more than 6 months and plus 2 months in China. But once I was in, actually, I don't know if it was super easy. So.
Yeah. It makes sense. And how is it working? I assume the dominant cultural language within the organizations is Mandarin. Is that right? Or is there English? How do you manage the language gap?
So like at Spicy Horse or in Pixelmatic, where I work now, it's the main, like the executives are not Chinese. So basically the main language in these companies were English. It's English. But definitely you work with people that maybe are not super fluent in English. So yeah, you have to learn to understand different accents and to understand different images, expressions, how people react to things. The cultures is very, very, very different. So yeah, you get used to it, but yeah, it takes time.
Are there a few that stand out in particular? And I'm also curious how that parlays into or affects the game development itself. Is there a certain strategy for thinking about the users as being categorically different between Chinese or not just a language, but some of the more subtleties of the design aspects or gameplay? I'm curious what that looks like when you guys are making or designing these games.
So I think like people in China, they are very into, like the gamers, they are very into competition. I mean, in general, males, I would say they are very into competition. They like competitions, like they love NBA, they love the games, the esports and such. So when you do game for the Chinese market, if you have a competition element, that's will help you to succeed, I would say. So, and they like also, maybe it's a bit of a negative term, but they like to show off. So they will like to buy stuff to show off, like, okay, I have this cool skin in League of Legends, you don't have it. So they like to show off, and they like competition.
And do you feel that's just universally? That to me would feel like a universal quality of, I don't know if it's males in particular, but just of humans, that you want to be in a sort of competitive hierarchy, to know where you stand, to then make quantitative progress towards some mutually agreed upon goal. I find that attractive, and I think many, many people do. Is there a part of you feel part of the Chinese? An example of this would be, I saw an image one time of a bookstore that had a bunch of magazines from, I think it was in Japan, but it would compare that to the magazine shelf in like an American airport, and the difference of the design is striking. There's just conceptually, there's a lot more things happening in the Japanese design. You might have, like 75 different people or images on one magazine, where typically in the West, it's like one person on the front of a major magazine, a couple pieces of text to lure you in. And it seems to be a fairly consistent user interface design. If you look at some of the big applications in the West, like Spotify, Apple, iTunes, they tend to be large, simple, easy to use functionality that works best with a simple price point. On Spotify's $12 a month, but it more in the East, and this is a broad generalization that I threw out there to really get your rebound on. But I've seen, and YouTube is starting to go down this path where you have maybe 75 different monetization schemes on an app. And it might have like pay to send a premium content, pay to do this, pay for apparel, pay for premium messaging. And it's like, it makes sense to a user if they have progressed through the app, but it can be overwhelming if you're just thrown in there. And maybe that's just what people expect. I don't know if you and also living in China and using the different apps that are out there compared to apps that are more popular in the West.
Well, it's definitely different. I mean, like the environment, like the digital environment, the internet environment in China is very it's isolated from the rest of the world, and it's very different because because of that. It's like one of the reasons. In terms of apps, things are very, I would say, centralized nowadays. So like WeChat, I guess you've heard of it, right? Is you do everything for WeChat. There's so many. So basically, the main function is instant messaging, right? But there's a lot of things in it. There's also like a wallet you can pay with WeChat, but there's also a lot of things about like dating or like things like Facebook. You have a wall. You have all of the ordering food app. I mean, there's a system, a framework to build apps inside it. So it's very like one of the main apps that everybody's used, and everybody's kind of used to have a lot of things inside one place. Mm. And in the other apps, like I guess you know also Alibaba, it's called Taobao, the version of Alibaba, like the e-commerce stuff, is also full of stuff. It's a lot of advertisement, a lot of information, and now they also have a lot of videos and live. There's so many people selling stuff live nowadays, and so there's a lot of information, a lot of advertisements. So, and I feel like it's like at least a lot more from, if I compare with Europe. I'm not super familiar with North America on that point, but like if I compare to Europe, it's very there's a flood of information definitely when you use the Chinese apps.
Why is that? Do you think that's a happenstance? Is it completely random cultural evolution? Is there some pattern that you would observe about why that might be?
I'm not sure. I mean, maybe one part is cultural. I have to say, I've lived also in Japan just for some time, like 6 months, and I did feel the same way in Japan in some way, where they had also a lot of things. When you go in a store, you have so many flyers everywhere, say trying to sell you something. It's like, and there's a lot of noise in the store. There's always this pre-recorded sound, like to sell you, just to try to sell you something. And same in China. So one part is cultural, and I don't know. I maybe somehow, I'm not sure. I'm generalizing, but I feel like maybe people also in China, they're not as they're kind of okay with advertisement and being flooded with information.
Do you think it's a function
in Europe and such? It's not like that.
Do you think it's a function of I almost would maybe trace it back to the regulatory zoning laws and construction. So if you have a extremely dense population, you're kind of become acclimated to this incredible information throughput that you're constantly being exposed to. There's so many different, as you walk out your house you could almost like draw a metric where you say, how many people do you see on your way from your house to the nearest food location? And how many people per square mile or kilometer are living in a certain area? And as there's just more people, there's more stores, and you become more acclimated to that. And there's a higher tolerance for having more exposure to like super, super dense information. And maybe people handle that better. It would be my theory. Like if you go into a store in the countryside, maybe even in China, maybe it's quieter. Maybe there's less noise, less advertising, less products, it's simpler. I could see that being a sort of a consistent theme through it.
Yeah, I think you're touching a point here. I think people, I agree. Like people in China, they are used to the crowd. There's a crowd everywhere you go in a city. There's a lot of people, and they like it, and they like to be in the crowd. And like a lot of people, like a lot of Chinese friends I have, and even my wife, sometimes they would be scared if they go somewhere and there's nobody, like there's no crowd. Like they would feel like it's boring or it's scary because they would feel like, okay, I'm alone, I'm feeling lonely, or maybe they would be scared of being attacked or something. So yeah, definitely, like in my experience from France, coming from a very small town where there's not much people, and being very fine with being alone in a house, I don't see that much things. Like, I mean, people like me, I would say, in China, where they love the crowd, they love going out, see a lot of people. So yeah,
most people do. Most people
right.
You'd say most people enjoy the density of it.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. And how about impact on design? When you design at Pixelmatic, you guys are making this game Infinite Fleet, which, in my understanding, is not quite launched yet, but it's in development. When you're designing this game, is this, and correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'm curious to know if when you're designing this game, is it designed for a specific audience in mind, or how do you split up the audience? If it's culturally, if it's by some other measure, like tell me a little bit more about like the psychology of game design too. I'm really curious about.
So in our case, like for Infinite Fleet, it's not really designed for a specific like culture. I would say it's more like designed to appeal to nostalgic people of the 80s and maybe a bit of the 90s and all of the like Japanimation. And there's also some bits of like Star Trek and like all of the sci-fi series. And we're trying also to put a bit of Dungeons and Dragons. So it's a bit of a mix, I would say. And we're trying to be universal, but we're focused to this audience, like nostalgic people from the 80s, 90s, and such. And to answer to the, like for China, if you design something for China, I think if you know day one, you will have your app or your game in China, you have to research about regulations and how things need to be prepared well, because something that might be fine in the rest of the world is probably maybe not fine in China. So like if you do a game and it's like an action game where you are killing some zombies or some skeletons, for instance, I think like bones are forbidden, or maybe the blood is forbidden also in China. So it's
really
there are some regulations like that. Yeah.
So is it true to say that no video games in China would have blood in them?
Yeah, I think they would remove the blood or eventually they would change the color, but I think they would just remove the blood.
Interesting.
So you have to, I mean, if you know you're going into the Chinese market, I think you need to prepare upfront. That will save you time. And another like difficulty to come into the Chinese market is, like I said a bit earlier, it's isolated. Like the internet in China is isolated, so you need to have a local infrastructure. So, and for that you need to have a local partner actually. So it's a bit difficult. You need to find the right partner, and you need to deploy this local infrastructure that will be isolated from the rest of your other infrastructure. So technically, also, it's a bit difficult.
Sorry, just so I'm on the same page. So this would be, you're talking about the server, so where the game is hosted in the cloud is going to be on a particular server company in China. This. Yeah. When I'm thinking of these server companies, I'm thinking of AWS, Google, Microsoft Azure. Do these companies operate in China? Is there currently a presence of US-based tech companies having cloud infrastructure in China, or are they all Chinese companies? And why would the relationship matter? I'm picturing it to be, set up, automated, simple to use.
Mm-hmm. So. First thing first, there's no Google. Like Google is really banned from China somehow. And there is AWS, and I think there is also Microsoft Azure. I think, I'm not entirely sure actually, to be honest. But there is AWS. They have 2 data centers in China. I don't remember where exactly. But if you are a foreign company like AWS, you want to go into China, there's very, very few options. And maybe the easiest option is to do a joint venture. So you have to find a local partner and build up a joint venture with them on the Chinese soil. So it's not easy.
Got it. Okay. So from your perspective, you're choosing different providers and you're building out the game. So you have to make a good decision and what are the kinds of things that matter? I imagine this is a challenge that just about every other tech company encounters, because they're all going to be building in the cloud, not just gaming. I'm just speculating here, but are there things that backdoor loopholes to governments that are concerning, or potential internal policies of the cloud provider that they might shut you down if you have blood in the game automatically? I don't know. Tell me what you usually think of.
So in terms of games, first thing first is you have to get the license. Basically, every games that are officially published in China, they have to be reviewed. So for sure, you have to get through this review process first, which at that time they will verify everything and make you comment if there's anything else you need to remove or adjust. And once you pass this review, then you're kind of good. So you can publish the game in China and then you're good.
Wow. And this is the State Department is reviewing every game. The government is?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They must have a lot of people doing this then.
I think there's a lot of people, but actually there's very, very few games that get accepted. And
wow.
I'm not sure about the recent numbers, but at some point they didn't accept any game for like a year or something. And recently also, they adopted a law that forbids teenagers. I think it's up to 18 years old, maybe. I'm not remember. To only play a maximum of 3 hours a week. So there's also this sort of stuff. Yeah, if you publish your game in China, you have to add these modules, or is this a way to collect identity information from the players, and then you need to be able to be accountable if there is anything that goes wrong, you need to be able to retrieve the information of the users that maybe said something wrong on the chat. And you, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You have to be able to retrieve the information of the users in case they said something wrong.
Yeah.
And also, I imagine you as the game developer have to be able to block them for more than 3 hours a week if that is a Chinese government policy. Are there a whole bunch of things like that? Like they block the number of hours, they block certain things you can say. I assume you have to have your own internal review process for complaints about other users, and there's some protocol through which if somebody says something, I don't know if it's specific words or like if they're criticizing the government, if they're making fun of each other in some way that's not acceptable. Is it a complicated, I'm picturing in my head, it's like a complicated soup of mess that you have to deal with as the game developer to figure out, should we ban this person? Should we report them to the government? Should we, and is it as hard and complicated as I'm picturing it?
It's definitely a cost, and it's definitely difficult. So like I said, if you actually, I missed one part, which is if you want to publish in China, you need to go through a Chinese publisher. So basically, your Chinese publisher, this company will help you to do these kind of things. They very often they have staff that can help you to add this part of the modules you have to add on your game. They can provide you all of the blacklisted words and all of this stuff. So they will definitely help you. But all of these things come with a cost, right? So you have to know that there's some sort of a upfront cost to deal with that.
Yeah, but not a problem. The way you're describing it, it seems like, well, just an extra 5% cost. You tack on an engineering team and so on with life. Is it nerve-wracking at all to not have a game license approved for a year? Is that a big deal? Or the way you're saying it, it just kind of sounds like, well, and also curious, what's a game? Like, is it a game? Can you launch a web-based game? Does it have to be console-based? If it's like an app in some app store, is there a definition to where, like, what platform a game has to be reviewed by the government?
I think it would include like PC games, console games, mobile games. Maybe not all mobile games. Let me think. I mean, mobile games, maybe you can go through without getting the license. I think you could find your way somehow. So if you really want to be like featured on the top of the Chinese app stores, I think it's kind of a requirement, I would say.
Yeah. And is there a bottleneck to games? Do you see like some impact where the gaming environment is somehow constrained by only a few games? People aren't getting access, or they're backdooring into games in the West through VPNs and other ways?
Yeah, I mean, the gamers, they find ways. yeah. That's true. And but it doesn't work every time, right? And finding ways comes with a cost also. It's like if you want to play a multiplayer game, then you won't have maybe a good experience. So maybe it's better just to play on the local version.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you want to add anything there at the end of that? If not, I'm curious to ask you more about the philosophy of the crypto parts of the Infinite fleet. Tell me where you are with this, how big the project. I know Pixelmatic has raised about $4 million. Correct me if that's wrong, but just paint me like the scope of like how many people, where are you guys in this progress? How much will it take to launch this game? What do you kind of hope the game does in terms of volume?
So actually we just released yesterday a beta, like a closed beta version of the game. So it's closed as it's not open, like not everybody can access it. Now the way to enter the game, it's only if you buy a spaceship. So it's a spaceship games. You have a fleet of spaceships, and you are part of this like military government that is trying to save humanity from some bad aliens. It's a bit cliche, but there's more to it. And we raised we did 2 fundraising. We didn't go the traditional way. We went with an STO, so a security token offering. This security token is representing a part of 20% of the benefit, annual benefit of the company, and also a part of the capital upon like a liquidation event. So it's really like a security. It is treated as a security, and it is registered as a security like in Luxembourg. And with this STO, we like I said, we had 2 rounds. So the first round was like a seed round, we can say, and the second one like a Series A. So in the seed round, we got 3.1 million USD, I think. And the Series A is not finished yet, but so far we raised 4 million. And we are partnering with Bitfinex to finish this raise. So we have a page on Bitfinex, and soon we will be releasing the opening the end of this STO Series A on Bitfinex. And we're also, so Bitfinex is for Europe, and we're also partnering with INX in USA. So the project started like a while ago, actually, like in 2016, if I do remember. It's really like the dream project of our CEO Samson Mao, which was also the ex-CSO from Blockstream, and it's really his dream game, his baby. And we started from a very simple version, I would say. We started with prototyping, and we actually tried stuff on mobile first. And we've also built a first trailer that would just give the overall art direction and where we want to go, and give a taste of the game to people that would watch it. And with that, we've been able to do this first STO, and then after the first STO, we've been able to build a much bigger team. So at first we were like 10 people, even less, working on the game. After the seed round, we've been able to increase to almost 40 people, and we released an alpha version that was also closed. So it was also accessible to a few people. And just now, yesterday, we released. So I'm sorry, I'm a bit tired because of that. Also, I released this closed beta, and now we are going onto a 2-month cycle. So every 2 months, we're going to release new updates on the game. And so now, to speak about the crypto aspect about the game, the philosophy behind it is that we didn't want to be a blockchain game. There's a lot of problem with like blockchain games, and I can mention like what's his name, CryptoKitties, where when they launched, there was so much hype in the beginning that they basically congested the Ethereum network. And it's a bit of a pity that a game could put down a network of payment, right? So if you imagine you couldn't use your Visa card or something because there's this game that is very
it's
simplistic.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can't play in the game, right? That's the
Yeah.
flaw is the design of the crypto network.
Mm-hmm. And there's in terms of gaming also, if you're on the blockchain, you come with all of the constraints from the blockchain. So everything is slow. Everything require a cost, right? If you want to do something, you need to pay a transaction. You need to wait 10 minutes on Bitcoin. You need to wait maybe 20 seconds, 1 minute on Ethereum and on some others. So it's not made for much game, like and especially like in our case where it's a action strategy game, so it's a bit actiony. You need to do some quick reaction and such. So if you were to wait some time between two actions, it would definitely kill the game. So we took the decision that we want to put crypto in the game, but we don't want to be linked to a blockchain. We don't want the impact and all of the slowness that can come with a blockchain to be on the game. So how we designed it is that it's decorrelated from the game. And what we have is we have two things in terms of crypto things. We have a currency, which we call the INF token, which will be distributed to players through the participation in the game. So in the game, as I said, it's a spaceship game. So you will partner with other people and you will take on missions. So it will be a bit like the raids in World of Warcraft, for instance, where you team up with people and you go do some sort of, not dungeons in our case, but some missions. And then at the end, you have a reward that they will be shared by everybody. And we will have not guild systems, but we call them divisions, but it's basically guilds where people will team up all together and share the pot, and maybe guilds will be able to own space stations, own planets and such. So this currency will be distributed to people through the participation, winning, earning the missions. And then when they have this money, they will be able to use it and spend it into the player-to-player or the peer-to-peer marketplace. So in this marketplace, every player will be able to list a ship that they have for a certain amount of this currency, the INF token, and the other players will be able to shop these ships and basically exchange. We're also considering to put some other stuff like parts of ships or some items. And on top of this INF token, we decided for all of the paid ship. So we have paid ships. Like I said, now to enter the game, you need to pay a ship. For this paid ship, you will also, that are like somehow premium, you will also have an NFT. So these paid ships are on the opposite of the free-to-play ships. We will have free-to-play ships that will be free, but these paid ships that you pay with fiat or with Bitcoins and such, you will have an NFT. And then when you do the transaction on the marketplace, you will do actually an atomic swap between the NFT and the INF currency. So it's going to be like an instant exchange. There's no third party. And so there's this kind of like an extra security because it's like a premium ship. You don't want to sell it to someone that is a bit maybe shady and through like a PayPal transfer or through emails or whatever, you pay and then you send the ship or you send the ship and it never pays you here because somehow the protocols enforces that it's through atomic swap. You know that you will get what you're expecting for.
And all that is built in the game, the exchange.
Yeah, so the marketplace is not finished yet. We just started working on it. All of the crypto stuff actually is still not released yet. We are in the finalizing the legal structure for it. So we are actually opening a company in El Salvador that will be the publishing company of all of the crypto tools for the game. So
why El Salvador? And how El Salvador?
Basically, we do. I mean, our CEO Samson Mao is very connected to El Salvador, so he has a network. He knows people there, so this definitely helps to open the door. So yeah, we do have contacts there that help us to do that.
Gotcha. Okay, and I assume that's for some Bitcoin crypto regulatory impact to what you're building. Got it. Where it's better to build in El Salvador than China. Interesting. What do you think of the impact that the metaverse technology of completely immersive VR, indistinguishable from reality that we live in? What do you think that technology, when it really hits kind of a critical mass, and I view it as, if I can put the glasses on and I can't tell the difference between this life that I'm experiencing and life inside the experience with the glasses on, how will that impact gaming? How will it impact life? Do you think it's underrated or overrated with what people are talking about?
That's a good question. There's definitely one thing that is for sure, is that games are more and more immersive and more realistic. If you look at the latest Unreal 5, I don't know if you've heard of it, like the
Unity,
their engine. No, Unreal 5. They have something called
Unreal,
Night, and they made something called a Matrix demo. I think it was for the Matrix 4. I don't remember, where they simulated a whole city, and plus their latest engine, which is very graphically impressive. So yeah, we can definitely see that in the future things will be very, very more and more close to reality in terms of like rendering and looks. And it really works for the visuals and also the audio, but then that's it, right? So all of your other senses, they are not very can I say, involved in this experience. So like your touch is still not, it's not something very common to have, like what we call haptic equipment to feel something. There's a lot of companies that works like on haptic, how do you say, haptic costumes or
jackets,
something, where you
sensors,
could feel, right? Jackets. Yeah. That's cool. But I don't think that will be, I don't think that's going to be the future. Like, will you have to put the VR set plus the jackets?
Yeah.
And still then you don't smell, you don't feel the heat or things or humidity. I think there's still somewhere something that will be disconnected from reality, right? Even if you are in virtual reality, because you are not feeling the heat, you're not feeling this bullet that you just should have touched, you've been killed with or something, right? So I do feel that it's never gonna be, unless we have something like in movies where you can just plug your brain directly to something, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's another thing.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of smart people working on that technology right now, right? Neuralink is it's a project that actually currently connects the neurons of pigs to the system, and they can like visually see. So you can at least get a readout, which a readout would be crazy. I mean, imagine instead of the input to the computer game being a controller, it's like some API to the mind where you have like, okay, I have some basic settings that it's wild, but I can certainly see that happening. The other way around would be, I mean, that's hard to fathom the impact or the practical nature in which the technology of sending an input into your mind, like if you wanted to feel a gunshot, well, I mean, could you stimulate the right neurons in your mind to feel that, or to bump up against something? I mean, that's exactly as you say. That is the Matrix at that point, which I would imagine, even as you get close to that, even if you don't have smell, touch, you're still taste, you're still getting the two primary sensory domains through which we interpret reality, which is visually and audibly. That to me seems like, I don't know. I mean, do you see it as just being a straightforward path of like, oh, games will get just more immersive, or does something like categorically shift when you get to a game design that's indistinguishable from reality? Like an example might be people start to care less about base reality. Like they're totally captured into this new world. I don't know. We're kind of getting into the realm of science fiction a little bit, but it's not far off.
Yeah, we're kind of like touching the subject of metaverse almost, right?
Yeah. But it's like, it's strange because it's creeping up, right? It's at one point it's far away, but the other point it's like, is it, how far away is it? And there's gradual steps on the way there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably already the case somehow. And I think maybe myself, I'm already somehow in that case, in the sense that I grew up with internet. I would say as a teenager, I was really into internet, and internet has always been a part of my life. And I'm not saying that I'm not leaving my house or something, or like a very introverted guy, but I do definitely prefer the life on internet compared to the reality, because the thing that I like in internet is there's no frontiers, there's no barriers, there's no as you say, prejudices. So basically, when I think of internet, I always think of when I started using internet, where it was just nicknames. It was only chat. You were chatting with a nickname. You don't know if it's a woman, a man, other age, or anything. You're just chatting with a person, right? And that's the thing that I like, and that's definitely the thing that make me stick into internet and kind of like prefer the internet life compared to the real life. Because in real life, to be honest, you can be impressed by someone because he's just a bit taller than you, and you won't be able to be yourself. Maybe you will be a bit intimidated by that person, or maybe because there's a lot of situations where you feel that, I don't know, it's life, right? But on the internet, it's so much easier. I do agree, because it's just nicknames. It's just mind talking to another mind. And what you're describing here, I think, is already happening with just internet. It could be just text, mind talking through emails or through chat, right? So going into the metaverse, going into the 3D, yeah, definitely, I think it can go into that way, and it can maybe hook more people. But I think it's already happening right now.
Do you see a potential danger, or do you have a potential prediction about the way that the internet community is developed as it pertains to the Great Firewall? I mean, if China is completely locked off, such a large population of people, and there's so many smart people and so much going on there, that it's almost like it's like a Bitcoin fork, where, if it's separated for long enough, then merging conflicts happen. Do you see like, how do you sort of project, are VPNs the future, where people are just kind of getting through, and then like connections are happening, so there's enough cultural like pass through? Do you see it going the other way, where it's like a completely different world developing in the internet in China versus the rest of the world?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely disconnect, like I said earlier, and I think it's not just China. I think there's a lot of countries that are blogs, or maybe it could just be a culture, right? Maybe because you're speaking a specific language and you're only like 10,000 people that speaks this language, and you will have a very small place on the internet, right? So, and they will develop differently because it's a different culture and such. So yeah, it's things will be different. Yeah, definitely. And definitely some things will be misunderstood because people are not that close, because there is this virtual frontier, I would say. So yeah.
Do you see it culminating in a particular predictable theory of like, okay, is there growing tensions? Does it just two sides? Because to me, I'm like, okay, if there's this inevitable firewall, the reality of the internet gets more immersive. There's more games. There's more incredibly captivating experiences. People are more consumed, and they identify more in that space than they do in the physical space. As that just keeps marching on decade after decade, is there a growing separation where it's like, it's almost like you're in another world if you're on one side of a firewall or the other? Do you have any, I mean, having lived there and seen, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, like I said earlier, is everything is different already from the beginning, right? So the culture are very different. The social etiquette, like I said, is very different. So from the very, very beginning, things are different. So will the Great Firewall impact or increase that the differences? I mean, it's already there, I would say. So it just maybe it slows down the communication or the I don't know,
throughput.
Yeah, maybe the connections between the cultures.
Yeah. Well, I hope it remains peaceful. I hope it's used as a tension that can grow almost the polarity of human creativity, and that the things that do get through are in a way, I could see good ideas being shared on either side. It's like I'm almost picturing like if you have two non-connected lakes and you have like different biological systems in those lakes, you have different fish, different birds. Eventually, there's more. Like there's not a lot of crossover. Every once in a while, a bird should fly over to the other lake, but they're so far apart that there's independently creative design process happening. The fish looks different, the birds look different, the different patterns, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's just a world of more unique creativity. That would be the optimistic perspective. Yeah. But regardless, Sonny, congrats on the progress with Pixelmatic. Do you want to throw it anywhere where you are personally on the internet? We'll have links for all the Pixelmatic stuff in the show notes, but are you tweeting or writing anywhere you want to put out?
Yeah, sure. I think people can follow me on Twitter. My nickname is Sonny_AD. And I also have a blog if you are like a developer. It's more like a developer blog. So if you're into technical stuff, you can follow me on my blog. Also, it's sonny.alvesdi.as.
Cool. Well, congrats on all the progress, man. And I hope to hear when you guys launch and other new exciting updates in the future. So thanks for hopping on today,
cool.
Sonny.